my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my spoiler-free review for The Do's and Donuts of Love by Adiba Jaigirdar. I've got the content warnings for this book linked down below in the description, and let's go ahead and get into it. And The Do's and Donuts of Love follows our main character Shirin, who lands a role in the new televised baking competition alongside of her ex-girlfriend. Her dream come true quickly turns even more complicated, however, when she becomes fast friends and maybe even something more with one of the other contestants. Years ago, I read and absolutely fell in love with Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by this author, so that alone was enough for me to want and need to read this. But I also tend to really love books based around competition shows and just baking and cooking, so those things combined, yeah, I was really excited about this book going into it, and the cute cover and cheesy titles were just a bonus. And I will say, this book definitely went differently than I thought it would, but I actually ended up liking what we got a lot more than where I thought it was going to go. So let's go ahead and start diving deeper here. Starting with our main character Shirin, I liked her. I found her easy to root for throughout this book, which is good because, again, competition show. She is very clearly an extremely talented baker who made me very hungry while reading this, but she can definitely also be a little bit on the immature side, and it feels a little bit weird to say this next thing because, like, she is the main character, but she does have a little bit of main character syndrome as well. But she's also young. These things aren't necessarily shocking, but I don't think that this book always addressed them fully when it comes to healing arguments or even relationships. And that doesn't just go for her character either. I felt like some of the conflicts in here for a handful of different situations felt like they wrapped up too quickly or a little too easily for me. As for the other characters, we have a competition show, it's a large cast, and yeah, some of the characters definitely only got like a name, and some of them I'm not even sure we got that. But I think that was fine, and I do think that we got to know who we needed to know and knew the names of who we needed to know. As for the relationships, we are dealing with an exes situation here, and again, I do think that we could have explored this better or a little more thoroughly, but I did, for the most part, really enjoy that aspect of this story. Our main character also has an adorable, like, mentor relationship in here that I loved, and also sweet friendships and relationships with her parents. There's a lot of really amazing support here, and I loved reading all of it. It made my heart very happy. As for the romance, this is actually where it gets kind of spoilery, so I'm not going to talk about it that much, but I will say I like where we ended up here, even though what I said about conflict resolution earlier in this story does definitely apply. And let's go ahead and talk about the competition next, because it did complicate a lot of the relationships in this book, and I also thought it was an interesting look into the pressures of being in that kind of environment when it comes to chasing your dreams, doing it for your family, doing it for yourself, and just trying not to let anyone down. And I do like how this book explored that and the character growth when it comes to those things, and again, just the love and support that all came into play. This book also dives into the racism that our main character, her ex, and one of the judges experienced while being on the show, from both the people online, the contestants, and also people in production, while also very much showcasing implicit biases here. And our main character also deals with fat phobia on top of all of that. So yeah, there are some really frustrating, some really infuriating things that happen in this story for sure, and it definitely infiltrates and impacts the competition as well as the characters throughout the book. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I tend to really enjoy books that have a competition storyline, and this was no different. I have spent and will continue to spend just an outrageous amount of time consuming reality competition shows, so it's just something that I'm into. But I also do really like how the competition was structured into this story. It made the pages go by a lot faster, and it was also interesting to just see the competition itself and all the different challenges. And it was also really fun to read just all of the incredible sounding things that they were baking in this book, and this book was full of that. And also, like I said earlier, I tend to really enjoy books with baking storylines, and I love that about this book as well. It was also just interesting to see how far the other characters were willing to go to try to win and to try to make good TV, and by that I mean specifically dramatic TV. And I will say my reality competition brain was definitely spinning maybe a little bit too much during this, because there were times where I was like, why didn't they get this critique, or why did nobody think to do this for the competition? And in my head, those things were obvious. Like, why would you want to make something that you just made 2 rounds earlier in the competition, and why didn't you get critiqued for it? But it was only just a couple of instances sentences, and they were pretty easy to ignore and just keep going. There was also something towards the end of the book that I feel like once I thought about it, it made sense. But I do wish that the actual story itself cleared this up a little bit more regarding how the competition show was going to edit something. Which again, I just feel like this book had a tendency to leave things a little bit unfinished. Even though I did really like the ending and a lot of the choices that this book made, I felt like they made a lot of sense. This book also does have a reveal, and it's one that I really did like because things weren't fully making sense before that reveal, but it certainly did afterwards, and because I didn't really know where this book was going to go when it comes to this aspect and this storyline, it was a little bit of a surprise to me, and now I can look back and appreciate the hints a lot more, and I do think that this book hinted to the reveal very well. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but this book is very much a lighthearted, fun, adorable, cheesy book that also does balance heavier topics. Each chapter starts off with a cheesy pun, and I usually hate puns, but it's part of this book's charm and just the lightheartedness of it all. It was also maybe the first book in existence to make me go back and read chapter titles when I realized I was missing them. And I didn't read this book all in one day, but I could have so easily. It was like 30 pages in one sitting and then just the rest of it in the second. And these pages flew by without me ever getting bored or needing a break, which was exactly what I needed on the day that I was reading this. And even though I definitely don't feel like I loved this book as much as I loved Hani and Ishu, I did still really have a great time with it. And I ended up giving The Do's and Donuts of Love by Adiba Jaigirdar 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that. And hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye.